brings me to introducing our first speaker. Her name is Nicole Hynum, and she works with the IESO. She has more than 12 years of diverse experience in the electricity sector, including leading the implementation of the IESO's new consolidated website, as well as managing the organization's social media and corporate brand initiatives. She's held operational roles, managing corporate procurement and business planning functions. And prior to this, she held various positions relating to energy conservation with the Ontario Power Authority, which merged with the IESO in 2015. She has a master's degree in advocacy and political leadership, as well as a Bachelor of Arts degree from the University of Minnesota. And she is going to be talking to us today about Save on Energy programming. Nicole, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you for having me tonight, Marianne. It's wonderful to be here with all of you and to learn about the great work that you guys are doing. And as you did your intro, I think we have some programs that could potentially be very beneficial to people on the phone. And so I'll share my screen quickly. Can everyone see my screen? Not yet.
Not yet. Here it comes.
Okay, perfect. Beautiful. Can you see me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So yes, I lead a group inside the IESO that we do business development, and basically we work with all customer groups across the province to make sure they're aware of and able to participate in our Save on Energy programs. If I could leave you guys with one key message today, it would be that I'm going to run through a lot of information. If you need any help or have follow-up questions, I am here to help, or my team is here to help. So don't hesitate to reach out after. I'm going to spend the bulk of today talking about the Save on Energy programs that are available to residential customers, but I'll also touch on quickly the business portfolio. But first, I'm going to talk a little bit about what we do at the IESO and our history of energy efficiency in Ontario. So we do a number of things at the Independent Electricity Operator, or the IESO. The first thing that we do is that we operate the electricity system provincially in real time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. We also do long-term and short-term power system planning, and the goal of this is to make sure that we have the electricity to meet the needs of the future. A big portion of our business is to enable our market and do so in a competitive fashion. So we have a number of different programs that we oversee to enable competition and run the market. We also work very closely with our communities and stakeholders, and that's to make sure that when we do implement new programs or have program changes, that it's done in a way that people can participate and give us feedback so that we make informed decisions. We've had a lot of work around innovation the last couple of years. And one example I could give of that, and it's becoming an increasing priority, is around energy storage, for example. So before our system and our market didn't have a way for storage assets to participate, and we've recently worked with the storage community to make sure that storage can now participate in our market and in our system. An emphasis of many businesses, everywhere now is cybersecurity, and we take this very seriously. There's a big focus on how to make sure that our system is never compromised. And of course, today I'm going to talk about energy efficiency. So we've had a strong history of energy efficiency in Ontario, and it's a really important resource in our supply mix compared to generation resources. It is our most cost-effective resource, and it's used in our planning assumptions so that when we're doing our forecasts, we do count the program, our achievements in our energy efficiency programs towards our system forecasts. And in order for us to make sure that the information that we put into our forecast is accurate, we do go through an evaluation, measurement, and verification process. And this is done through third-party evaluators. And basically what happens is we have, at the end of the year, we have the evaluators go out and they verify that all the projects that were said to be done and the savings that were supposed to be achieved did happen. And this then informs a very important piece of work that the IESO undertakes every year, the annual planning outlook, which helps us understand, which lays out our supply needs in the short term. So Save on Energy has been going on for just over 10 years now, and we've had a lot of good success and uptake our from customers in Ontario. So far we've saved 17.3 terawatt hours of electricity from our programs since 2006, and this is quite a bit. It's equivalent to powering 1.9 million homes for a year. Over 250,000 residential consumers and businesses have participated in the Save on Energy programs since 2011, and over 80 million energy efficient actions have been undertaken. And this includes things like when we had our coupon program, when we had our, our, our uh, appliance collection program, and then new devices and equipments that are swapped out. So right now we're in the middle of the 21 to 2024 CDM framework, and we have a funding envelope of 692 million for our various programs. These programs are delivered under the IESO's Save on Energy brand, and they primarily target commercial, institutional, and industrial customers. There are some opportunities for residential electricity customers, and there is also renewed programming for income eligible electricity customers as well as on reserve First Nations. And I'm going to talk about those programs today. It's very important that we're undertaking energy efficiency. We're entering a time of system needs that we haven't seen in a long time, and this is because a lot of customers are choosing to undertake decarbonization goals that include electrification. So the we're seeing the introduction of a lot more electric cars and companies changing from gas to electric heating sources and things like that. So these programs play a great role in helping to meet the needs that are emerging. So I'll quickly touch on our business programs. And one of the business programs I'm going to dive into a little bit more depth on is our First Nations Community Building Retrofit Program. So I'll just talk briefly about all of these. But again, if there's any of these programs that you'd like more information about, happy to connect on that. I know the purpose of today is residentially focused, but many of you may own a business, or maybe you think this is the right fit for a business or company that you work for or with. So the retrofit program is one of our flagship programs, and this is targeted at businesses, large and small, and basically we have currently a prescriptive list. So things like LED lighting, there's HVAC replacement, ventilation on demand, things like that are available through this program. We do have delivery partners that can help a customer navigate this program. So basically, they can help with the application process, identifying projects, and then helping through the retrofit process. The next program is our small business program. This is really targeted for smaller business and is a direct install program. Basically, customers can get free lighting upgrades as well as HVAC and refrigeration measures have also been now included. So this is a good program, and it's at no. Both of these are at no cost, or the small business program is at no cost to the customer. The energy performance program is a bit more, it requires a bit more of a sophisticated energy manager approach. So basically, it's a pay for performance program. So we would provide incentive savings based on the savings that's achieved. So for operational, behavioral, and and capital upgrades. So a customer would measure their energy before and manage their energy after, and whatever you save, that delta will pay you a certain incentive for. One of the programs that we've had great success with over the years is the Energy Manager program, where we would pay a business to bring in an energy manager. This program is actually in its last year and will be transitioning to a strategic energy management program. And this is really for cohorts of energy managers to stay connected, get information, get training, and things like that. And the new program is set to launch early next year. The Industrial Energy Efficiency Program is a program where we invite industrial customers to, we open up a proposal window and we invite industrial customers to come in, give us an application, let us know how much you're going to save, and we evaluate those different proposals against each other. And if they meet the certain criteria and thresholds, then we will contract with those customers. These are usually for very, very large projects. They have to save at least 2,000 megawatt hours. Um, the final thing that I would talk about is our training and support program. So that program, this is a suite of programs that we have available from a very basic energy user all the way up to a certified energy manager. So if you're interested in learning more about those programs, or you think your company or business that you know could benefit from them, I'm happy to talk more about that. And then we'll be launching the existing building commissioning program later this year. And this is really um, to for commercial buildings and large municipal buildings to basically fine tune the way that they run their operations to save energy. So I'm going to talk about a program now, the First Nations Community Building Retrofit Program. This is a new program that we just launched, and it provides eligible communities and councils up to $100,000 in funding and technical support to improve the energy efficiency of band-owned commercial and institutional facilities, to manage your electricity usage more effectively and save energy costs. So the types of things that are eligible for this program are like lighting, smart thermostats, to more complex retrofits, such as retrofitting the facilities like arenas, wastewater treatment plants, and street lighting. It's open to all on-reserve First Nation communities in Ontario that are connected to the Ontario's grid. It is it's a direct install program. So, we do have a delivery partner that will come to the community and help a community navigate this program, and it is at no cost to the communities. There are the benefits to participating in this program. So building some better understanding of energy use and identifying cost savings for a variety of abandoned commercial and institutional facilities. There's also the opportunity of creating a mentoring, training, and employment opportunities for community members. And of course, the funding that covers the cost of implementing these energy efficiency projects. The application window is open and it's accepting applications until December 31st, 2024. And we're encouraging communities to apply as soon as possible. There is more information on all of the programs that I've talked about, including this one on the saveonenergy.ca. And if you'd like to find out if your community qualifies or learn more, you can contact use the number listed here or the email address to get in touch with our service provider, delivery partner. So now I'll talk a little bit about our residential offering. So we've got some incentive offerings for income eligible electricity consumers and Indigenous communities. So the first is for the remote First Nation Energy Efficiency Program, and then the other is the Energy Affordability Program. Both on and off reserve Indigenous community members can participate in the Energy Affordability Program. But it is targeted to anybody who qualifies for income, who meets the income eligibility criteria. So I'll just quickly talk about the history of these programs. So both of these programs did exist before, and we've had very good success with them. So from 2011 to 2020, we had the Save on Energy Home Assistance Program, which is a no-cost energy efficiency support program to income-eligible households. We've actually had over 110,000 income-eligible participants participate across the province. This is now the Energy Affordability Program, which I will talk about in a moment. We also previously had the First Nations Conservation Program, which we offered from 2016 to 2021. It's the same program as HAP and EAP. Basically, there's no income eligibility for this program, however, at that time. It was just eligible to the entire First Nation that participated. And to date, we've had more than 8,400 homes participate in that program. So as I mentioned, we're currently offering the Energy Affordability Program. There's two components of this program. So the first is what I would call the comprehensive program, and the second is our energy saving kits. I'll quickly touch on what both of those are. So the comprehensive program is a direct install program, and basically what happens is if you qualify for the program, an energy auditor will come in, assess your home, and then install the measures. When it comes to the KITS program, it's a different income eligibility threshold, and we can talk a little bit about those. But participants receive an energy savings kit in the mail, and they install those measures themselves. There's a number of benefits to these programs as well. There's participants, it helps them manage their electricity bills. It can increase home comfort, and it, of course, helps the environment by reducing energy consumption. So I talked a little bit about both of these already, so I might just skip over this slide in the interest of time, but I will talk about the types, I will go into the eligibility and the types of measures of each. So for comprehensive, um, people qualify for this program, participants qualify if you meet the income eligibility that's identified on the left-hand side of the screen. Or if you received a government benefit or participated in the natural gas low income DSM program in the last 12 months. I also, a good development for this program is customers used to have to, if they had electricity and gas in their home, they used to have to participate in both Enbridge's program and the IESO's program, but now we have actually worked together to have a joint procurement. So we have the same delivery partner delivering the program. So it doesn't matter if you come in through our program or their program, you'll get similar experience. So the types of things that are available to customer or participants in the comprehensive support program, you can receive Energy Star certified light bulbs, energy efficient shower heads, faucet aerators, clothing drying lines, and power bars with timers. Based on the results of the on-home assessment, some participants can also qualify for an Energy Star certified replacement appliances, such as fridges, freezers, window air conditioners, and dehumidifiers. If a person's home is electrically heated, participants can also qualify for insulation in their attics, walls, and basements as needed, as well as comprehensive home draft proofing and weather stripping. So as it relates to the kit, the eligibility you'll see is here on the right-hand side. So the income threshold is a bit higher. To qualify for this, it's similar to the comprehensive program. It's for individuals who own, rent, or lease a residence in Ontario and are the primary or secondary utility account holder. And you couldn't have obviously qualified it for the comprehensive program. The types of energy saving, energy efficiency upgrades that are available through this are similar. So LED light bulbs, retractable clothing line, handheld shower heads for electrically heated hot water, faucet aerators, some weather stripping, and then black heater timers. We also recently launched our Remotes First Nations Energy Efficiency Program. And the goal of this is to help homes and businesses in qualifying remote First Nation communities improve their energy efficiency usage and manage their energy usage. So this is a two-step process that similarly there's no cost and it starts with an energy audit. This is also a direct install program and we have a delivery partner who helps us deliver this program. So the benefits of this program are, again, there's basic energy efficiency upgrades. There's, the opportunity to have more home comfort, and of course, manage your electricity bills. These are the First Nations, the remote First Nations that are eligible, if as long as that can participate, so long as they meet the eligibility requirements. Um, I was actually in Key Lake First Nation, to kick the program off, and that was pretty cool. So some energy saving tips. I'm going to talk a little bit about some tools and tips now. So these are not these are not incentive-based programs, but things that homeowners can do to save electricity. So my energy action plan, we just launched this tool earlier this year, and it's basically a tool to help residential consumers um, learn more about ways to increase and improve your energy efficiency and comfort in your homes, and also manage your electricity costs. So you go onto the site, and it's listed below, and you simply fill out this questionnaire, and it gives you a tailored energy action plan based on your responses. There's also a suite of tips and tools on our Save on Energy website. So some of these are articles, some of them are buying guides for different to help you, make market-based decisions. And then we also have a newsletter that you can sign up for if you're interested in that, and that's on the Save on Energy news and updates, the Power What's Next newsletter. So now I'll just breeze through some quick tips that help to conserve energy. So we always recommend that people unplug their electronics and appliances, such as your microwave when you're not using them. Phantom power is real, and it will slowly suck your power out. So anytime anything is plugged in, it's extracting power. So we suggest unplugging things when you're not using them. A good way to also manage this is through power bars, and this can help you control your lights and avoid wasting, or your appliances and avoid wasting electricity. Check your doors, exterior doors for weather stripping, and replace them if they're worn, ripped, or missing. And when you close your windows, make sure they're properly latched to ensure a tight air seal. When you change light bulbs, replace them with LEDs. They do cost more upfront, but they use a lot less energy along the way, and they now come in a lot of nice colors that, they used to be very strong colors, and now they're softer and there's a lot more variety. We also recommend using small task lights, such as reading lamps, instead of lighting up your entire room, and to learn about the features on your thermostat, including setting your fan controls to intermittent or auto. When you're doing laundry, wash your laundry in cold water. It's also better for your clothes. Only run your washing machine when you have full loads, and hang wet laundry on the clothesline or clothes drying rack instead of using the dryer. In your kitchen, if you can, use small appliances instead of your large ones. So your microwave instead of your stove, or a slow cooker instead of an oven. If you set your fridge temperature to 2 to 4 degrees Celsius, it will save energy, but it will also keep your food fresh. Try not to leave the fridge or freezer door open longer than you have to when you're preparing meals, and pre-boil water in a kettle for cooking rather than using your stovetop. And when you use your stovetop, make sure you choose the proper size pot to match the burner. In the bathroom, take shorter showers and fewer baths to reduce energy usage through water heating. Don't keep the water running then longer than you need to, and use a low flow shower head and faucet aerator. As when it comes to seasonal, so in the winter, we recommend replacing furnace filters on a regular basis. This will keep your costs down, and you can keep your costs down with reusable filters. We also recommend placing shrink wrap on, or even blankets, to reduce the drafts around windows and to keep heat from escaping. And use free heat from the sun by opening your blinds when it makes sense during the winter, and closing them in the summer to stay cool. And then make sure your vents and grates are not blocked by furniture, because then your furnace has to work harder. And then lastly, for the summer, check the seals around your window AC unit to make sure they're tight. Head outdoors for the barbecue instead of cooking inside. Take advantage of ceiling fans. You can reverse the fan's direction in the winter to stay warm. And then when summer's over, remove your window air conditioner and store it inside, to help your unit last longer. So that is all that I have, but I am happy to take any questions now or at the end. And again, me and my team are here to help. If you want to have a discussion about any of these programs in more detail, or you have a question later on.
Great. Thank you very much, Nicole. I have not seen any questions come through the chat so far, but if anyone feels so inclined, you may unmute or put some questions in, and we'll see if anything comes up.
Were they, sorry, hi,
ahead.
it's Lisa. Were they already in our community doing all that before? Because I kind of think that some people came out to my home before and I got new
Yeah.
light bulbs and stuff like that before.
Yeah, they may have been, that might have been through also our Aboriginal Conservation Program, which was before the First Nations Conservation Program. So we have had a few iterations of this. So this could have been if you're on reserve, a First Nation community member, or if you have I'm not sure where you live, but if you also you could have participated in the HAP or EAP program as well. And so people, I'll just say people could still be eligible for the program, even if we had done the program before, depending on how long ago it was and what measures you had installed. So it's always good to inquire if you still think you have opportunities in your home.
I'm going to go ahead and introduce our next speaker, Millar Nicol, who's from German Solar Corp, which is in London. He's an electrical designer of renewables, specializing in PV solar, and he's been with German Solar Corporation, excuse me, for 6 years, and was in the consulting industry for 13 years before that. He's an alumni of Fanshawe College and grew up in the London area and has a PV solar installation on his own property in Melbourne. German Solar specializes in design build of PV solar systems from residential to utility scale, and German Solar has been operating since 2009. Some projects you might recognize locally include the Sifton West 5, John Paul II Secondary School, Western University, Fanshawe College, and the London District Construction Association, as well as our retrofit project on Chippewas of the Thames for the Stacey residents. Millar, take it away.
Thanks, Marianne. I appreciate that. I'm just going to share my screen here quickly. And move this. That slideshow. Can everybody see my screen? I'm hoping. Good. So yeah, thanks for that introduction, Marianne and Nicole. Thanks from the IESO. That was a great speech on Save on Energy and what the IESO does. My focus is going to be a little bit more residential. Yeah, basically that's it. So renewable energy generation, solar photovoltaics. That's just a fancy word meaning that energy comes from the sun through a bunch of devices and ends up in your house. So you should ask yourself the question, why should you consider solar generation in a retrofit project? Conservation efforts to reduce energy are really limited. You can only get so far conserving energy. Energy is still required in your house. You're still going to watch TV. You're still going to possibly do dishes. You're going to have a heat pump maybe instead of a gas-fired furnace. We are consumers of energy at the end of the day. So to get to what's called net zero, you need to consider something more than just conservation. Solar generation is a great option. Recently, we were involved with a home built in Thorndale by a company called Quest Homes. They're very forward-thinking, building envelopes and homes. And they actually beat the building code by about 80%. It was pretty incredible, but that home still required 13,000 kilowatt hours of energy per year to become net zero. So that's how much energy they consumed, even though they did everything they could to be a good building envelope. The Chippewas of the Thames First Nation pilot net zero home, smaller footprint than this one in Thorndale, but it required about 7,500 kilowatt hours of energy per year. And I think we put a PV system on there that was just about 6 kilowatts to generate that much energy. So that's a couple of examples. So where does this energy come from if you don't put generation on site? Great question. We've got a chart here, and it might be a little bit old, a graphic, but I think 2019-20 pre-pandemic, but it's pretty accurate, I believe, still. So this little table up here on the pie chart on the top shows you where your energy can come from in Ontario if you buy it from the grid. 60% roughly comes from nuclear or uranium, which I believe is all mined not in Ontario. Probably 25% is hydroelectric, great source. 8% roughly is wind generation, and 7%, pretty equal to that, is during the day when the natural gas plants fire up to make up for the peaks. And then there's a couple other small sections in there, which includes solar and other stuff. You have to ask yourself, what is each one of these sources? How does it affect the environment? We're sort of here to talk about greenhouse gases along with savings, energy conservation, that type of stuff. But really, uranium, it's pretty clean, but you do have to bury the waste a kilometer underground and find a place to do that. Hydroelectric, a great source, but Ontario is a little bit tapped out for hydroelectric. Quebec has much more of that. Wind generation, also a pretty good source, a pretty clean source, but nobody really wants it in their backyard that I've come across. And then gas fired can either be natural gas for generating electricity somewhere else in the province, or even possibly propane, which I believe on the Chippewas of the Thames First Nation, most people will probably have propane heat, which is more expensive than natural gas in my experience. So those are the options. And what does each of those do for the environment? I think you can all draw your own conclusions. So also providing self-sufficiency and is a good thing to think about when you're thinking about generating energy on site, on your own home, because where does your energy footprint land? When you purchase energy from the grid, you've got these 4 or 5 options of where the energy is produced to go onto the lit grid. You're really putting your foot down on somebody else's property and impacting them in a positive way. A lot of communities would argue because these energy sources are contributing to communities, but there is an environmental impact. And then the cost of that energy, you have to buy that energy. That energy has to be transmitted to your site. So these are all things to think about. So making your home more sustainable. Producing energy on site reduces losses of delivering energy to you. So if the energy is generated at the Bruce or at Niagara Falls, somehow that energy's got to get to you. There are losses involved with that energy traveling across hydro lines for hundreds of kilometers to get to you. That's not very efficient. And generating your own electricity on site gives you control of the source. You can decide, okay, I want to generate energy. I know where it's coming from. I know what my footprint is, which is important to a lot of people. So how does photovoltaic system work? So basically the sun shines, hits solar array, solar panels, turns that into a DC electricity, pushes electrons to an inverter or converter, changes it to AC, then you can use it in your house. The problem is what happens during the day when the sun's shining a lot and you produce more than your house can use. So you need to think about storing energy. And I think Nicole talked about some participants on the utility scale. On the residential scale, it's pretty tough. But luckily, there's something called the net metering program in Ontario and other jurisdictions, but specifically Ontario. And what that means is that the sun shines on your solar panels on your house, if you install them. You use that energy locally. If there's excess energy, this energy follows the green lines through your meter, which records that energy, goes out to the grid. And I'll say it gets stored on the grid, but it doesn't really. It gets utilized by your neighbor or the neighbor beyond that or the neighbor beyond that. The electrons go to follow the path of least resistance to the closest load. And then when the sun isn't shining or if the clouds are out or something like that, then you are consuming energy. It comes back through your meter, it records that, and you get it used in your house. So the goal is you generate enough energy in a year to offset what you use in the year. That's how you get to net zero. So that's 7,500 kilowatt hours that model home uses. That's what we want to target for generating so that we can get to zero. Things to think about, time of use versus two-tiered billing. If you go to a net metering contract, they do a two-tiered billing system. That means that instead of paying a certain amount in the middle of the day and another amount at night, you're now paying a set amount for the first chunk of energy used in a month, and then you pay a little bit more for the second chunk if you're over 600 kilowatt hours. And then that's true for the energy you generate as well, by the way. So kilowatt hours versus delivery and regulatory charges. I believe I found out that the Chippewas of the Thames First Nations may not have delivery and regulatory charges to worry about. I think that was a former agreement. But if you don't have those to worry about, then you can truly get to a $0 bill, I believe. I haven't seen the final bills, but theoretically, if you're generating as much kilowatt hours as you use, those should net to zero. That's net zero. So what to look for and expect in a solar solution. So you're looking for your roof that's facing south, typically. That would give you the best generation. Now you can have some westward facing and some eastward facing because it will tend to be in line with when you make breakfast and when you make dinner and get home from work. The solar array obviously is going on that, and you got to weigh the costs of the installation versus the size versus how much energy you need. So maximum amount, the amount of energy captured from the sun, the cost effectiveness, pick a company with a good history, proper certifications, somebody that can handle the permits, etc., has an electrician on staff is probably a good idea. There's an interaction required with the utility. There's usually an initial consultation, there's an application, and then there's a net metering agreement that you have to sign and a fee you would have to pay with your utility. Again, I know they Green Economy London and Marianne's helping stick handle that through the First Nations, but those are things that has to happen. And then what does your bill look like? Basically, you're going to have the top of your bill just looks like normal. In the bottom of the bill, you'll have a second page that shows you your credits that were generated during that month. Considerations for remote and rural communities. Roof mount or ground mount, is ground mount allowed in your area? I believe the First Nations probably have their own permitting rules around that, maybe more flexible than off reserve. What about shading in the future, and what happens when the sun isn't out? Well, when the sun isn't out, I sort of covered that in net metering. Backup power, you could consider putting batteries in, because then if you have an outage, that may help carry you through an outage. I can tell you that battery storage right now is very expensive compared to PV solar itself. So that's kind of my quick spiel. I was trying to get it into 10 minutes. I don't know how I did, Marianne. I didn't start my timer. But a quick, some past projects that I've been involved with, just to give you some of my experience. So residential, here's a pretty cool net metered system, I think in Port Rowan, if I believe. Here's a pretty cool off-grid seasonal tilt system that we did just north of London on a farm. Here's a pretty cool little installation we did at the LDCA. So we architectural integration into the building. There's also panels on the roof of this building, but they were looking for a entrance that had some flash. And then this is a big one that German Solar has been involved with. This is Sifton's West 5 project. This project's pretty interesting because it's really pushed the envelope with regulatory and utility interactions, learning what they are and what we were and they were allowed to do and not to do. This site actually, since 2018, has generated about 8.9 gigawatt hours worth of electricity. So that's pretty cool. And not all of that would be captured under the Save on Energy, under the IESO's fact-finding mission, because a lot of that energy is actually consumed directly in the building before it goes to the grid. So that's my spiel. Again, questions, there's my contact if anybody wants to reach out to me.
It looks like Marianne has a question.
I do. We're looking at we're renovating an old 1913 home, and I'm putting in new windows and insulating and doing all the things that you'd expect. And we're also putting on solar. And so I've been surprised that it's not that easy to get information about the types of different solar panels that are out there, installers. Like, it still seems to be less robust as an industry than you would expect in the year 2022. And one of the things that I'm kind of surprised about is that the battery technology is considered so expensive or weak that no one is saying, oh yeah, you should definitely get battery storage. I mean, I think it seems like the best way to go about solar is to use the Ontario grid, as the backup and go back and forth with the net metering system. So is that's your perspective? One, that storage is too expensive and not worth it for the average residential consumer? Like, I'm looking at a 10 megawatt system. And two, is there any type of panel that you believe is better than another for residential applications, in particular for older residences, if that makes a difference.
So Marianne, so when I was talking about battery storage, I was talking about residential scale.
Yes.
And right now I can say with pretty good confidence, having priced a few jobs, that unless you're really motivated to have some autonomy or some backup power, the grid is your cheapest place to store energy. And again, I'm using store in quotes because really your neighbor's using that energy when you produce it, and then you just buy it what you need at night when you're not producing. So that net zero scenario, you know, the battery technology just is the good thing about solar panels in the world is they're a commodity. As far as the world is concerned, your home is not the target for a solar panel manufacturer. There's a 10 megawatt solar farm floating on a lake somewhere in China that's using 250,000 panels, and that's the market. So we're able to get those panels at a commodity rate, and that's why the solar portion is so cheap. Well, I'm not going to say it's cheap. That's why the economics of the solar installation is pretty much where it's going to be. Like it's not going to go down, but it's fairly, you know, it's stable. The battery storage just hasn't been around as long, and it hasn't been commoditized. So that's what makes it so expensive. There's a few manufacturers out there that have nice little systems. Generac's a big name. Tesla, very hard product to get, but a good big name. Summon Systems, and there's others. So German Solar, we're not a wholesaler. We're not a distributor for any particular. We're just an installer. Like we just purchase whatever's the client wants or whatever is the most economical at the time. And to answer your question about solar panels, and if you want to get into some, you know, shingle-like solar panels that look like shingles, but really they're a solar panel, or you know, all black framed and all that type of stuff, you're going to pay up for that. I think if you're going to a solar installer locally here, whether it's us or somebody else, you should just expect them to get a reasonable commodity. It's cheaper to buy one more solar panel to make your system a little larger than worry about the efficiency of 20 solar panels. So yeah, I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, no, that was helpful.
But, yeah. And then as far as trying to find solar installers, it really is a newer industry in Ontario, even though it's been around since 2004 with the RESOP program. And then the feed-in tariff contracts programs came in, and they were a big political hotcake. But even today, like I was surprised that the Save on Energy program still doesn't promote really. I don't think there's a PV portion for the Save on Energy. You have to look at the Greener Homes grants from the federal government. So Ontario is a tough place. It's a tough sell, and probably the state of the, you know, but in the next 4 or 5 years, I think it's really going to change.
Thank you.
Thanks, Millar. A question came through the chat for you as well, wanting to know if you're generally using the latest technology or standard panels.
It depends on where your solar installer is getting their panels. The distribution network, there are distribution networks out there that most electricians would probably purchase through, like the Gillivans of the world, the Baywa REs, and the Franken Solars, who I think just got bought. Those are wholesalers that wholesale electrical systems, and you'll probably find some stuff online. So they're using good technology, probably 300 watt, 360 watt panels. Because German Solar, our experience is we're dealing with some bigger projects on the commercial side, so we buy them by the CCAN. We're getting 400, like we don't install any panels that are less than 400 watt. We're getting some 535 watt panels now. The technology within those panels hasn't changed a lot as far as the solar cell goes in the last 3 or 4 years. It's just they figured out how to get more product in the same square footage within the solar panels. So that answers.
I think so. Unless I see a follow-up question, but so far so good. Anyone else, you're welcome to unmute if you have any comments or questions you'd like to ask. I have a question. Have you found any decent online resources for homeowners to check their own appropriateness, I suppose, for solar? I know there is the My Heat product that's coming out. Is there anything like, I know you use Google Earth when you're looking at people's roofs. Are there any kind of little like do-it-yourself kind of tips that you can,
Sure.
or like if they're looking at the utility bill, what number are they looking at to kind of determine what their home might need?
So if you, so most solar installers or sellers will be using like a software that might have Google incorporated into it, so they can build a model on your house. That's the advantage they have. You might even create a bill of materials for them. If you're a homeowner, there's something, it's called PV. So the letter P, the letter V, watts. It'll take you to a website. I think it's a US-based website. You can, it's kind of technical, but it's not too technical. You can put in your location, you can put in the size of your array, meaning kilowatts. So if you've got a 400-watt panel and you're going to put in 10 of them, that's 4,000 or 4 kilowatts. And it's got some default elevations. You can figure out which way your house is facing, and you can do a very crude calculation with that to figure out what your production might be. And then the other part of the question was, if you look at your hydro bill or your usage for the year, if you can do it online, I think most Hydro One lets you download a spreadsheet. You're going to look at your total kilowatt hours that you consumed in the last 12-month period, or even historically before that. Not much has changed. And that's going to be the kilowatt hours that you're going to target with your production to get to zero. Anything that you generate is better than nothing, because it all goes, it's all energy you use from the system you generated. That system, once you purchased it, isn't going to go up in price, so you don't have to worry about the cost of energy yet from that system escalating. Each watt should generate about 1.1 kilowatt hours per year that you install. 1.1 to 1.2 to 1.3. Different salespeople will tell you different things. If it's facing south and on a reasonable angle.
Thank you. There was someone mentioning small turbine wind generators. Do you have any experience with those, or with connecting those in with a PV system, or is that a pass from you?
We've got limited experience. We did a little project for a local community college, and they wanted us to integrate a vertical access wind turbine into our system for them. And it's been kind of idling for the last couple of years. They haven't quite got it going yet. But I can tell you our technician was there today, and there's a problem with the wind turbine. So I would be concerned about reliability. I think when we were looking at that project, if you don't get 100 feet in the air, you're not getting laminar airflow. I'm not a wind guy. I'm not a, I don't know. I'm not a technologist in that field, so I can't say for sure. But modeling it accurately is tough.
Thank you. And then someone also wondered if there might be any negative health effects with wind turbines, or if you could speak to that. But
not my area of expertise.
Me neither, but I will look into it. Great. Well, I have a couple more slides just acknowledging our funders and providing an email address. So I'll pop those up, and if any more questions, you're free to ask them. So we have many speakers in this series, and here are some of the folks that are involved. So we just want to thank them for their help. And if you want to reach out to us about the project or anything that you've heard, you're welcome to email me at the address below. We're also sending out a follow-up email with any relevant links and a recording of today's session, as well as at the end of the series, we will send everyone a full summary with all the links to all 6 sessions and any relevant links or discussion items that have come up. I don't see any more questions coming in, so I think we're good to give everyone an extra 5 minutes back in their life. And we have some thank yous coming in. So I would also like to thank both the speakers, Nicole and Millar. Thanks for taking the time to chat with us today. And we will see everyone else tomorrow, 5:30.
Thank you, everyone. Nice to meet you.
Thank
Keep up the
you.
good work. See you later.
Thank you.